Absolutely wonderful to see you here and to be here together. Feels extra special because for us this is the first face-to-face event we've done in a very, very long time, and I'm sure for lots of you it's the first time you've been on a train to London and perhaps also had an opportunity to mix with others from outside of your own organisations in many, many months. So we're seeing this as a great opportunity. It is our inaugural networking event for our members. And as the Director of Academy at the Florence Nightingale Foundation, I'm thrilled that we've been able to do this despite all of the challenges that it brings. So for us today, our agenda really is to give you this opportunity to share your experiences, your ideas with others, senior nurses working outside of your sector and all across the whole of the UK. And we know how rare that opportunity is as senior nurses, so we hope that you will take best advantage of that with all of the constraints that we have around our COVID restrictions that limit us slightly in the way that we're going about that today. But we also want to listen to you. So for us today is about bringing you all together so that we can have an opportunity to really hear from you how the F&F Academy and the membership can support you in the agendas that you're finding most challenging in relation to your nursing and midwifery workforce. So we've got lots of opportunity today for discussion, for networking, and to take a bit of time out for some creative thinking for our benefit, but also for yours. So there are some housekeeping, as you would imagine. We're in this beautiful venue and there are a few things that they've had to change to make it COVID safe. A World Café would normally imply that we would be moving around, there would be lots of energy, there would be lots of spontaneity as to where you chose to sit. Unfortunately, we can't do that. So you've all been directed to your tables, and whilst you're sat in your tables, you can, if you feel comfortable, take your masks off, as many of you have. But when you do get up and move around, if you could pop your masks on for us. And any drinks and food that we have throughout the rest of the afternoon will be brought to you as well. So it just really limits the degree to which that we're moving around. You will have all come up that spiral staircase, that lovely spiral staircase on your way up here. The way back down is different. So there's a fire escape just by the side of us here, and also a lift that will take you all the way back down to the bottom. And finally, the toilets are just out here and on your right-hand side, so we can all stay on this one floor. So there are all the practicalities out of the way. My next job is to introduce you to Professor Greta Westwood, who is the CEO of the Florence Nightingale Foundation. Greta is going to be welcoming you to the event today. And the reason why Greta is so thrilled that this event is happening is because 3 years ago, at least, she envisaged the idea of an F&F Academy. And by having an F&F Academy, it made the F&F Academy membership possible. And through this, we have been able to reach thousands of nurses and midwives, which is beyond any expectation anybody had for the foundation previously. So it's her vision why we're here today, and she's going to welcome you to the event.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you so much, Gemma, and thank you to all of you for coming today. It is a pleasure to see so many of you, and I can't imagine the trauma it's been for you to get here, for first of all convincing somebody that you should come, to get signed off, but actually you've made it on a train journey, a bus journey, so really thank you for coming. So this is the first, as Gemma said, this is the first of the F&F membership networking events, and may it be not the last. We intend to do this on a regular basis, and today should have been slightly different, but we are where we are, and I hope you agree that this is a fabulous venue. If you didn't realise already, the F&F have moved from the King's Fund, which was the back of John Lewis and Oxford Street, to here, and the nicest place next to it is Borough Market. So we are downstairs. This is now our registered office. So I want to start off by saying a few thank yous before I go on much further. I want to say a really big thank you to you guys for supporting the Florence Nightingale Foundation. It's been incredible. You are not all, I know not all of you are F&F alumni, but you've supported nurses and midwives in your organisations to become alumni, to become scholars, to go on our leadership programmes. And hopefully, as a result of you seeing the transformation in your nurses and midwives, you've agreed that it's a good idea to join the F&F Academy. So really thank you for supporting the F&F. And your time to come here today, you've got such a busy agenda, particularly at this time, and supporting the patients that you look after, the nurses and midwives. And so really well done for finding the time in your busy schedules for coming. And my third thank you is to my team, the incredible team. As Gemma said, it was a vision of mine a few years ago. I didn't quite know how it was going to work out, but my amazing team have made this vision into reality. And a special thank you to Gemma and to Adam as the Academy member, but also to Aisha and Jess as part of the comms team, who've done this huge amount of communications exercise to get the world to know about the F&F Academy. Some other members of the team are here today. So Lucy is the newest member of the team, and Dorcas and Jess and Sheila are also here. So thank you for supporting this event. So you've seen the agenda, and I hope you agree it's action-packed. But the most important thing I want to say is this is your agenda. This is your organisation now. This is your meeting. And hence we're after your ideas about how we can make the organisation better. So we want you to shape the work that we do so that you can support better your nurses and midwives, and we can be part of that journey with you. Importantly, it's a network event for you here. Some of you will know each other, some won't know each other, and we're really pleased that we've got such a diverse representation across the acute sector, the community sector, social care, hospice care, the independent sector, and there were a few more people who are coming today who aren't represented, but across, if I look at the whole of the membership so far, and I think we're up to 52, Adam? 51 chief nurses have joined the foundation since September last year. So some of you will know each other, some won't. A huge cross section across all of the healthcare sectors, but really this is your club, and I want to call it a club. I'm not sure whether that's the right term, but many years ago when I was thinking about the idea, and we were doing some listening events with chief nurses, some of our mates. One of them particularly, a very senior nurse in one of the huge organisations in London, said, Rita, you need to make it a club that nurses and midwives want to join. So that's what's been in the back of my mind. It is your club, and we're here to support you. So now I've got a clicker here. And why do we choose? So I'm going to go on to explain why we've chosen a World Café event rather than anything else in a moment. But a bit about the background, and Gemma's alluded to that, and I have too. The organisation, the Florence Nightingale Foundation in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, came into existence in 1934. And at that time, 20 scholars had the privilege of being a year-long scholar, but not like the scholars we have now. They have a year-long scholarship, but they had a year-long scholarship in residential care. Residential care, that sounds terrible, in a home in central London. But 20 in the whole world, and they were international scholars at that time, doesn't seem very many. In 2012, I was a leadership scholar, and I was so privileged. It felt like it was the pinnacle of my career. I'd lusted after this scholarship for such a long time, and when I was awarded the scholarship, I thought, this is it. This is me done now. But the problem about scholarships is, those of you who are scholars, it's never you just done. You're never the finished article. There's always so much more of you to give. But what occurred to me was I was slightly different, even in 2012. But the cohort probably was only about 30 to 40 nurses and midwives. And it occurred to me, well, actually, that's still such like the icing on the cake. You know, what about everybody else? What else could we do for the rest of the nurses and midwives? So I also lusted after a job in the foundation, and eventually I became the Chief Operating Officer in 2017. And it was really my mission then, in my head, I didn't tell anybody else, that I wanted to think about how the organisation could be an organisation that wasn't just for the few, but was for the many. I didn't want the foundation to be so prestigious and so exclusive. I wanted it to be more inclusive. So what could we do that made the organisation more inclusive? How could we reach more nurses and midwives? And the first step really was to think about, and of course the scholarships were for really middle senior career nurses and midwives, and I really wanted to think about a model that would support nurses and midwives at the early stage of their careers. So some of you know that in 2018 we launched the NHS 70 Leadership Programme and the Windrush Programme, and those really have been the blueprint of our leadership programmes for early career nurses and midwives since. So by then we've moved from 20 to about 50 and now to about 300 nurses and midwives. And the other thing that occurred to me was actually the bulk of what we did was all about developing nurses and midwives. That was the academy part. So how could we separate the operational part from the stuff that we did and then we did on behalf of nurses and midwives? So the idea of the FNF becoming an academy seemed a relevant thing to do. So what were the pillars of work that we were going to concentrate on doing and make sure we concentrated on doing that for the greater benefit? But didn't quite know how that was going to look. So as I said, we had a group of friendly chief nurses across the country who are friends, who shaped some of my early thoughts and put me in my place, if I'm honest. And but really, we treated it as a listening event. How could I operationalise my thoughts to be of greatest benefit for nurses? I am also lucky, you'll hear from Dame Yvonne in a minute, I'm also lucky to have an incredible chair of the Florence Nightingale Foundation and the trustees, of one of which Sharon is here today. Still here, still a trustee, yes, till the very last second. So our trustees were very supportive of this forward-thinking, forward-looking benefit to the many rather than the few. And they agreed into the investment of a new team. At this point, I was just myself and probably 2 or 3 others, admin type people. So in order to operationalise this vision, I needed some great brains behind it, and hence we have Gemma and Phoebe came along at the same time, and Aisha came along at the same time. And already within a couple of months, I had a team that were just rocket fuel. I didn't have to think it all by myself anymore. They were great at helping me with those thoughts. So that was in January 2020. They started great ideas about how this was going, and then of course COVID happened. So I would say that between January 2020, we launched the FNF Academy at the House of Lords. It was a big event. It was attended by very high-profile people from across the UK. It was a fantastic evening. But in the background, we knew this thing from China was coming called COVID-19, and quite how that was going to affect the healthcare sector, we had no idea at that point. So great big launch, that was fabulous. And then we carried on with what we were doing. We were left with some great team members, but we worked out what we could do whilst everybody else was supporting the front line. We decided probably if there was a time to launch the FNF Academy as a membership organisation, we could do it this year, which was now last year. So we could do it in 2020. So that was September 2020. And our plan for next year, obviously with the well wishes of the board and our chairman, is to go into a global market. We know that we do a fabulous job for the UK nurses, but we know the name of Florence Nightingale across the world is enormous, and why can't we offer, and why can't we do? And of course, nursing and midwifery is a global profession. It's not just where we're sited in our organisation. We've all got a responsibility for the global agenda. So that's the bit of a background, the why and the where, and you can see that's actually not a very long history, but in terms of the energy put into it and the amount of support that we got to do it, really impressive. So it started off with a few people as scholars, and now it's for the very many, which I'm jolly pleased about. And with our 51 members, I think roughly that the FNF Academy now reaches out to about 150,000 nurses and midwives, because of course the benefits are to your nurses and midwives, not just to you as chief nurses. So today's agenda. So I'm going to introduce you to Dame Yvonne Moores in a moment, and Dame Yvonne is going to introduce you to Jackie Riley. Jackie is Director of Nursing in NHS Services in Scotland, and she's also our Special Advisor to the FNF Academy. And then we're going to have this World Café. We'll see how that goes later on. One of the tables is going to be afternoon tea, so you've got to do a bit of work to get to the afternoon table, but there we are. Then I'm going to introduce you to Wendy Irwin, who is the lead, the diversity and inclusivity lead for Royal College of Nursing. And then afterwards, we're going to have a bit of a networking reception. So that's your time to chat and informally with your colleagues around the table. So why a World Cup Cafe? Well, we could have just sent you a survey and say, we're thinking about this. This is what we would like you to consider. How can we support your organisations better in the future? We could have just sent a survey, but we didn't. We decided it was really important to have it when we could have a face-to-face. So you've got so much experience in the room. We want to exploit your experience as a wide frame of reference. World Cafes are about high energy, enthusiasm and engagement, so we want it to be fun. And there's lots of sharing and understanding to do. And we know that if you're in a small group and you're probably not the person who will always put their hand up first in a larger group, in smaller groups it gives you an opportunity to be more inclusive. And most importantly, at the end of the day, we want to go away with a list of conclusions that you want us to do to support you as chief nurses and your nurses and midwives. And I guess one of the outcomes of this is for you to understand, and I know Dame Yvonne is going to talk about this a bit more in a moment, is we want you to understand that this group of chief nurses, you as chief nurses and members of the FNF Academy, are going to be the powerhouse of nursing and midwifery in this country. That might sound a little bit ambitious, but we totally believe that if we provide you with the platform, this is the opportunity you've got. But Dame Yvonne is going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. So an opportunity to network amongst each other. The World Café, there are 5 tables. The 5th table is this cup of tea table and cake, I believe. Yeah, cake. But the other 4 tables, so we've got some themes that we'd like you to discuss. One of them is about clinical supervision, and Jess is there, and she's going to host that table. Diverse and inclusive leadership, and Sheila's going to host that table. Membership educational program, Chema is going to host that table, and me, because I'm always forward planning, thinking about the future, so big ideas also for the future. So just before we start, I wonder whether we can just agree a few principles. And I'm not apologising for stealing some of this from the Windsor Leadership Academy, but I want you to agree, if this is possible, that every person in this room today is a good person. That you engage in beginner's mind. And by that I mean, this is a Buddhist Zen word, or Zen expression, Zen phase, for attitude of openness, eagerness, and a lack of preconceptions. So wipe your slate clean of any preconceptions about today. This is you being open and eager to support us. And they're all on different stages of understanding. So some of you are chief nurses, some of you have come to represent chief nurses, but basically we're starting from you're here to help us, and we want to, in order for us to help you. And of course, confidentiality and mutual respect. Is that okay? Yes? All agree to that? Marvellous. So lots of energy. It doesn't feel very energetic at the moment, but I think a cup of tea and a piece of cake might help. But certainly once you get going, certainly World Cafes will generate that in you. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much again for coming. I hope you enjoy this afternoon. Give it everything. This is your opportunity to tell us how you want this organisation to run. We are here to support nurses and midwives, and importantly, we're here today to support chief nurses. So remembering the words of this said chief nurse, it's a club that you want to join. So that's really that would be my dream. I'll shut up now, but I now want to introduce you to Dame Yvonne Moores. Some of you will know her. Maybe if you've been to any of our events before, you would have heard Dame Yvonne's very sage words. She's incredible. We're so lucky to have her as the chair of the Florence Nightingale Foundation. She is a nurse leader extraordinaire for certain, without doubt. Her CV is so impressive. I would be here till the end of this afternoon, going through everything that she's achieved during her career. She's gone from ward sister to being the CNO of all 3 UK countries. She's worked in the WHO in the advisory group in Switzerland, and her nursing career expands nearly 60 years. And if I was to say to her, in fact I will say in a minute, but I will say her words, she says out of all of her career, being the chair of the Florence Nightingale Foundation is the best job she's ever had. And of course I would say that. But I think as a nursing and midwifery community of professions, we are so lucky to have her still involved, still so eager, still visionary about the future for nursing and midwifery, that you'll feel she's not here in person today, we're going to join her in a minute by Zoom, but you'll feel her energy in her delivery. She wants you to be the best chief nurses and midwives in the UK. She wants you to reach for the stars. She sees the talent in people all the time. It's incredible. So sit back and be enthused and energized by Yvonne's words.
Thank you very much, Greta and Gemma, for the introduction. Gosh, it sets me up to try and thrill you and enthuse you. But she's also given away my age because of what she said in her introduction. So there we are. A very, very big welcome from me. It's absolutely great to have you here at our Café event, World Café event. And first of all, before my few words, I just want to say to you all a really big well done, because it's been your leadership, wherever you work, in whatever sector you're in, NHS, independent sector, the care sector, wherever, in the military. I know Sharon is with us today. You have been just amazing. Of course, all nurses and midwives have been, but it's the nurse leadership that has been the most amazing thing of all. And you haven't always got that absolute recognition. And I want to give that to you this afternoon, because you have shaped, managed, as well as delivered services throughout the last 18 months of this pandemic. So I'm in awe of you and all that you've achieved. So it's an extra special pleasure for us to welcome you in the membership and as part of FNF. And I'm just thrilled to have you. Hopefully, just the beginning of the numbers and your colleagues that will be joining us. As Greta has said, not just in the UK, but from around the world. Because our vision, our dream, and it's certainly my experience, that the importance of bringing senior nurses, chief nurses together is powerful. And it is to create this power base for nursing and the profession that is our aim. As you know, we are FNF, so I'm bound to refer to Florence. And she experienced and delivered and demonstrated the power of influence. And that is what we are seeking to orchestrate, to enable to happen through the membership of this academy. So this is what you're helping to create, bringing together from across sectors, and I think this is incredibly important, to focus on the issues that you as nurse leaders know that matter. If we're going to improve clinical services, but also public health, improve the health of people, as well as delivering clinical care, and influence policy in order to bring about that change. This is in your hands now, and it's in our hands at FNF to enable you to do that. And I just want to share with you in these few words a couple of anecdotes from my own experience of how powerful bringing top nurses together really is. As CNO, there were over 350 trusts, NHS trusts, and every 6 months, that's twice a year, I met every nurse leader twice a year. We brought them together with me, and it was twofold. I shared all that was going on at the centre of government, and I listened. So a reality check for me, and how powerful. It was the only group of, as it were, everyone across the NHS that met together, nurses. And ministers realised how powerful that was, respected it, and on occasions actually joined us and listened firsthand. But as importantly, the chief nurses returned to their patch, and they knew more about what was going on and the background of decisions that were taken at the centre, more than anyone else on their trust board. And they were empowered because of it. It really was a fantastic experience. So you can imagine that with that in my mind, and with Greta's vision, the setting up of what we're doing, would realize that ambition to enable this power base of bringing you all together to do this influencing. But my second little example is WHO, the World Health Organization. As Greta mentioned, I actually chaired the World Committee on Nursing for 4 years in Geneva. And why did it exist? WHO brought together over 160 governments across the world in its membership. There was a single CNO in that office with very few in the team, and most of the people that were in the bureaucracy, if you like, but certainly in leadership roles, were very often doctors. And nurses just really did not have a voice until we brought together top nurses from around the world together. We met together, and it was from that we developed one of the first nursing resolutions at the World Health Assembly. And the message then went to governments across the world of what nurse leaders were saying. And there was a resolution that strengthened nursing in those countries, developed strategies. It happened only because top nurses came together. And then they made it happen, brought about change. 2 examples to you, just to reinforce what I know you already know, but to reinforce the power of coming together. And for us at FNF, our enabling brings together across all sectors, so that, of course, you meet together in the NHS or as independent sector nurses in the military and so on, but across sectors to bring you together in a united agenda that we can develop what the issues are in policy terms, work on it for you, and be an external independent influence for you. You will identify those key issues, as we've said. Very often when you come together with others, you can't always speak honestly and openly about the reality of a situation and what those issues are. This forum and this organization will enable you and support you in that openness and honesty, so we get the right agenda and we get the right work moving forwards. A power base for nursing, a nursing voice of influence that will be yours. I know you didn't need persuading because you are already in membership with us, but I hope that I have helped to reinforce the crucial importance of what we are about. The start of a journey together. It sounds very exciting to me. The possibilities of being able to work together to bring about change, to improve clinical services, to highlight issues, but most of all, to improve the health of our nations, and not just in the UK, but globally. And what a wonderful network for you all as we do extend it across the world.